Have you ever thought about writing a book? Been thinking, should I self-publish? Should I go with a publisher? Well, I have got an amazing guest for you today if this is something you've ever thought about. Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 106. It's a cracker with a topic we've never talked about before, writing and self-publishing a book with a special guest. And I can't wait for you to hear the whole entire episode. Thanks for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do appreciate you making me one of them. I am, of course, the host, Jen Donovan, a marketing thought leader and social media strategist for small business, and just an all-round small business lover, basically with one goal for you, and that is to make you realize that marketing needs to be a priority in your business. It's my number one business goal to have every small business that I come across make marketing a priority in their business, because if we want to grow, marketing is what you will need to do. Just before we get started with my guest today, I just wanted to talk to you just quickly about my new email marketing mastermind program that's starting in February and going for 6 weeks. If email marketing has been something that's been on your to-do list for 2021, or maybe it's been on there for a little bit longer than that, then check out this program. There's nothing like it on the marketplace, because it's not I'm going to sell you a program and then you'll go away and just do it. It's actually me helping you through for 6 weeks in like a mastermind setting where you get to ask questions and we get live calls and you have a group surrounding you to help you do this email marketing thing. And it is so powerful, email marketing. If you're interested, you can find out a little bit more or put in an expression of interest at here's the link, bit.ly/email mastermind. So bit.ly/email mastermind. So if you're interested, go and check it out, and of course you can put in an expression of interest. But let's get into it. Let's get into today's episode. I have Bev Ryan on the podcast. Bev is a book coach, and her business is called Smart Women Publish. As I mentioned in the episode, Bev and I are in a group called She's the Boss, which is run by Jules Brooke. If you are a woman in business and you don't belong to She's the Boss, as well as coming to join the Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group, go and join She's the Boss and introduce yourself to everyone. It's an amazing group with some just terrific women in there who are all about helping other women, just like in Like-Minded Business Owners. But anyway, this is one of the most interesting conversations I think I've had on my podcast. Maybe selfishly, writing a book has been something that's been on my mind for a few years now. So I was really curious, and you can probably hear that in my voice, in my questions and in my answers, and in, just the way I am on the podcast. I am seriously interested in doing this. But maybe for you, writing a book is quite a lofty, a hairy, audacious type of goal for you, or maybe it's something to put on your to-do list for this year. But I'm sure whichever way it goes, this conversation with Bev will really intrigue you. So let's get into it. Here's Bev, and we are talking books. Bev, I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today, because we are talking about publishing books, and I've never had anyone on the podcast talking about that before. But for those who perhaps don't know you or would like to know you a little bit better, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Hi, thanks Jen for having me. So I'm Bev Ryan. I'm sitting in Brisbane on a hot, steamy afternoon. We just had a clap of thunder that scared the bejeebers out of me. This is Brisbane summer. Welcome to summer. So I'm a work from home book production person, I guess. So book coach and book producer, that's probably the easiest way to explain what I do. And book coach used to be a term that like, people, what's a book coach? I work with usually business owners who want to self-publish a non-fiction book because, lots of reasons, and we'll talk more about that as we go. But so I help them start books and I help them produce books.
Yeah. And like I was saying before we started and pressed record, full disclosure, like, I think a lot of people who are in marketing have a book in them. So I'm very interested in this conversation,
Mhm.
absolutely. But who can write a book?
Well, it could be very easy to say anybody could write a book, but
Yeah.
doesn't mean everybody will find it an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. Um, some people are kind of natural writers and love the writing time, the writing period, whereas other people kind of love the creativity of creating the book, and then other people love the marketing of the book. So you find people most times, yeah, I guess there's those sort of three personalities involved. There's the solo, lock yourself in a cave and write a book person, and some people love that. Some people really struggle with
They're the
that.
ones we see on the movies, aren't we? The ones who take
Yeah.
themselves away to a coastal village and write a book for
Mm.
days.
Yeah, that, and then there's the creative side of producing a book, and that's I guess where my strength is for people is that they might be creative, but they just haven't got time to produce it because there's lots of little bits and pieces to putting a book together. So I come in and kind of project manage that stage. Um, then there's the marketing. So the people who love the writing because they're kind of lucky on their own writing don't necessarily love the marketing because it's kind of, hey, I'm here, look at my book, look at me. Whereas people who struggle with the writing oftentimes love the marketing because that suits them better. So yeah, sort of different aspects to it suit
Yeah.
different personalities. But I think it's like anything, if you've got the right people helping you, you can usually achieve something if it's important to you. But it's got to matter. It's got to be important to you. Otherwise, don't don't do it because somebody else says, hey, that's a good idea. You have to really
Yeah.
care about it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, in all the time that you've been doing book coaching and that, what's the quickest and longest time you've seen an author take to write a book?
The writing part. Well, oh gosh, yeah, I mean, if you start to tune into people who do what I do, the book coaching part of my business is to help people plan a book and write a book. So you'll see programs, they'll come up on Facebook or whatever, write a book in a weekend. There's people who are paying lots of money to do programs like that. They go to a workshop over a weekend and supposedly write a book. They might plan, to me, I mean, I don't know, I've never done it, but I know you can plan a book in a weekend. I think
Yeah.
actually to write a really good one might take a wee bit more than a weekend.
Yeah.
Um, but there are shortcuts you can take. I mean, to write. I mean, if you're more of a natural speaker than a writer, that you can always you've still got to plan the book, but
Yes.
then you might just record yourself speaking parts of your book and then get those recordings transcribed. You can then always pay somebody to kind of edit the transcriptions, or you might do that yourself. So there's shortcuts you can take. But if you want to write something quickly, you've just kind of got to block out your diary, not do much else, you know, for that period of time to
Yeah.
make it happen. I know. I know. I did the Key Person of Influence program years ago. It's one of the alumni of that program, and publishing a book is part of their program. And
Hmm.
we were encouraged by our mentor, who was Andrew Griffiths, um, to at least get the guts of your book done in 30 days. So their model is 30,000 words in 30 days. They'll be rough. This is really a brain dump in 30 days.
Mm.
Then after that, you work, you finesse that after that. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Mm.
I could just, I guess, imagine some people would, once they sat down to do the process, it might come fairly naturally to them and the words will just kind of, fall onto the page. And then other people would probably, find it a little bit hard to articulate. But that's where speaking could come in for sure.
Mm.
And certainly technology allows us to do that these days to
Yeah,
dictate.
definitely.
Back in my law days when I had my little
Mhm.
dictaphone and I would dictate into it and then somebody else would transcribe it without the ums, ahs, and don't worry about that. Don't you put that in. That,
Yeah.
you used to have to go into that as well. So, but,
Mm.
we've got AI these days that does that transcribing. So that's
Yeah.
really
Mm.
interesting.
But
Um,
even in that scenario that you mentioned, you've still got to spend time on the planning, and that's really critical.
mm,
Before you start any writing, you have to have mapped out, and it's like, and you go back before that, you really have to know why you're writing the book. Why are you writing this book? What do you want to achieve with the book? And most of my clients are business owners, so the book has a purpose within their business,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you need to map out as like. And you've got a marketing background, so it's really one of your marketing tools, really.
Mm.
But it should not look like it's not a brochure. It's not a it's not a sales thing. It's a book with your intellectual property, your knowledge, your experience, whatever. So it has to be a standalone, valuable product. But it has to be planned out. So you wouldn't start if you start to write before you plan, then you'll just write yourself into a corner and
Yeah.
write a
Okay.
whole bunch of stuff that's not very useful because it
Yeah.
doesn't have a purpose or an audience or
For
whatever.
flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that leads kind of into the question I was going to ask about, if people had an idea for a book, where do they
Mhm.
start? So I'm gathering from your answer, they start kind of planning your purpose and planning the
Mm.
why and planning out a
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. So I guess all the decisions, it's a really interesting process because it really makes you reflect on, what's my business? Who am I? Who am I trying to target? Who are my ideal customers? And what someone might find that when they do that analysis, they think, okay, well, actually, I'd like to change the direction of my business. So then they would write their book for what they want their business to be or who they want their business to kind of move, or it might be a tangent they want to go. So just because somebody might work with their perfect client might be, for example, lawyers at the moment, they might, well, if they don't really like doing that, well, don't write a book for lawyers because you're going to be stuck there. You might think, well, I like working with lawyers and I can help lawyers market their practices, but I'd rather work with somebody else. So you might write a book about how to market your business, but it may not be for lawyers. So yeah, you've got to think through forward plans. If I'm going
Yes.
to invest all my time and a certain amount of money on producing a book, the book's going to take them in a direction that they want. It should take them in a direction they want to go.
Yeah.
So there's that's the first step. So then once they've sort of decide, well, who is the book for? Really break it down. Well, why would that person want to read my book? And because the book's not about you. If you're writing a book, it's not about you at all. It's about the reader and understanding them and taking them on a journey that they want to go on and providing a solution they want to find. Because, if you think about ourselves, if we go into bookstores and buy non-fiction books particularly, we buy them because they're going to help us do something, or they're going to give us an answer, or they're going to inspire us or show us what to do better. So that's what you should aim to write when you write a book. Not a
Mm.
business card.
Well, yeah, like I know, like for my, I guess, thinking with a lot of marketing and that is start with the end in mind. So that's kind of what you're saying
Yeah,
is, start
yeah,
with the end in mind and, and what you want to get from the book and
yeah.
work backwards. But certainly, I have heard from a few people that have written books that I know in my life that they aren't necessarily a profit driving part of their business, but
Mhm.
more of a in quotation marks glorified business card. And I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that because that seems like a very big business card and a lot of energy into a business card. Is that just their thought process is wrong around that, or is there some truth in that?
Well, I think the phrase is just a business card. I think that diminishes the value and the importance of a book and what a book can do for you. And I know why people say that, and I've actually heard that some people have promoted what I do in their business. So like, I'll help you write a book. No one might ever read it, but it'll be like a business card. Well, again, I mean, if someone wants to do that, fine, go do it. But that's not what I don't want to work with people like that. I
Yeah.
want people who are putting some value into their book. Um, the question about profit, no, because the clients I work with are business owners. The book itself, they may not make a huge amount of profit from the sales of their book. If they're thinking that their book is a product that will bring extra revenue back to their book just from book sales, that may well not happen. But if they position their book as a tool to attract people back to their business who will then transact with them for higher valued products and services, then yeah, definitely that's where the profit's going to be. That's
Okay.
why it's important when you plan the book to make sure that book is an integral part of a bigger picture. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And I guess that kind of interestingly leads me down the line of just sort of thinking, what does a book cost to get published? Do you have any idea? Like, I know we're going to talk very general numbers, but
Yeah.
I literally have no idea whether it'd be a 50,000, 100K sort of investment, or what that sort of investment would look like.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'll just use a few averages, which might help people who are sort of interested to know. Let's use, so, a 40,000 word book. And, books, business books or nonfiction books don't need to be huge. I think more and more people are tending to appreciate shorter books,
Mm-hmm.
because particularly books where they can just kind of open the contents page, and the contents page should tell them very clearly what's in this book, boom, 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 and they can just jump in and get what they want out of the book. So let's say 40,000 words. Now, that in terms of production, the next step there would be editing. So editing of 40,000 words, you've got to be willing to invest, a couple of thousand in good editing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the production side is a full color cover. And so in terms of and a book cover's it's got to be well designed, but it's really something worth investing in. So you might be paying up to $1,000 for good design, which sounds a lot with just a book cover. But if you go and walk through a bookstore and look at book covers,
Yeah, what grabs your attention, what
yeah,
doesn't?
yeah,
It's definitely a very
yeah.
important part, I would say.
And there's look, I'll just hold this up. It's probably going to be in reverse, but you can see from that's just text.
Yeah.
That's Andrew Griffiths, who was our mentor in the Key Person of Influence program. This is his brand new book. Now, that's a brilliant cover. And it might say, okay, it's just text, but that text is so balanced and beautifully placed and thought out in the cover. So, we're not talking necessarily about fancy graphics or images,
Mhm.
whatever, but it's a classy cover.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's really classy.
Yeah.
So your book cover design, up to 1,000, maybe, and there's some designers charge a lot more than that. Some charge a bit less than that. But so then the next element is page layout. That's really important. Getting the quality layout. It's got to look good. It's whatever. So we're still talking about 40,000 words. So that might be between, I don't know, 700 to 1,000, 2,000. Look, honestly, the prices
Yeah.
vary a lot. So then your main cost anyway, editing, cover design, page layout. Then after that, your book goes off to print, or it becomes an ebook, or both. Most of my customers do both print books and ebooks.
Yeah.
So that's part of my service as well.
So an ebook is different to an audiobook?
Yes,
Yeah.
different. Yeah. With an audio book, you would pay somebody who's very good at who's got a proper sound studio, and you could either read your book and have it recorded, and then that has to be edited, or you might pay someone else to read it and have that edited. So that's another cost.
Yeah.
I don't, that's not something I do, but I certainly know people who do it, and that's
Yeah.
usually a few $1,000s
Yeah.
to
Okay.
produce an audio book. Well, with printing, I will normally refer my customers to a printer, or use an online self-publishing platform called Ingram Spark, which is really, if somebody doesn't know much about self-publishing, I would say just go and have a look at Ingram Spark. It's spelled INGRAMSPARK. They've got a very comprehensive service. So they're actually printers, and they also distribute ebooks through book retailers. They distribute print-on-demand books to book retailers, and also ebooks to book retailers. So I will upload my customers' files to their system, and for example, they will then put someone's books up online in various places. If somebody purchases a print version of someone's book, that print order goes back to Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark actually physically prints the book and posts it out. So it's,
Yeah, okay.
yes,
Which
the
is good
older,
for
uh,
authors not to have 1,000 books in your house waiting
yep.
for sales. So it kind of takes that element out of it. Not to mention that, it's probably not something you want to do, that, $20 an hour job waiting for the orders to come in and that. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
that's a
it's an
great
amazing
option.
system. And another beauty of that is so your book can be sold off other people's platforms like Amazon and Booktopia, whatever.
Mm,
But if you wanted to have total control of your book and maintain all um, profits from your book, you can sell it off your own website.
mm-hmm.
So the orders come into your website, and all you need to do is then go into Ingram Spark yourself and put in an order for one book. But it can be printed depending on where that person is. If they're in America, the book would be printed in America
Mm-hmm.
and distributed, and likewise the UK, Australia, and I think there's one in Asia somewhere. So you can take all the orders, keep profit, go in and send a book off. I did one recently for a client who was in the UK. So I just said print the book in the UK, and just paid a minimal amount for the book, and so it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's a really great. I will definitely put that in the show notes, a link to Ingram Spark in
Yeah,
the show notes for people to have a bit of a
definitely.
look at,
Yeah.
for sure. So I guess for anyone who might be listening who thinks, writing a book might be on the top of their list for 2021, maybe they learnt something in 2020 they can't wait to share with the world. What are some tips around, what they should do? How do you get it from your goal list,
Mhm.
and start, I guess, the process?
Yeah, the planning, you make time to plan it. Now, obviously that's something I do, and I work with people either as individuals or occasionally I run group programs. But
Hmm.
I mean, there's so much information out there, but sometimes there's so much information about anything that it's really confusing.
Yeah.
But book planning is the first part of the process. And as I said earlier, it's really about, well, where do I want this book to take me? You might, and a lot of people make a big deal about the book launch, and then they could, like 6 months later, it's like they've never written a book, because they kind of feel like, well, I launched it and that was it. Well, the book, the life of your book, if it's planned and written thoughtfully, the life of your book could be years and
Hmm.
years. And rather than a big launch and a frantic activity at the start, just map out sort of slow monthly activity, so your book kind of is perennial. So that plan, then when you sit back and plan your books, okay, well, if my book's going to be something I can use in the next 1, 2, 3 years, what do I want that to do for my business? So that's really where you would start, and write the book for exactly the ideal client you want to work with. Don't think, well, my book's for everybody, or everybody needs to know that. Like, like you've got a marketing background, you market to your niches, and
Yes.
so you
Yeah.
might you might do your first edition of your book. You might do book one, how to market a legal practice, and then you can always next year do how to market a medical practice. But most
Yes.
of the content's going to be similar. So yeah, so that planning is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
What are some do's and don'ts when you're writing books? Like, especially the don'ts, maybe. What does that look like? Do you find that that some people can make similar mistakes as they're going through?
Mm.
Besides, well, maybe one of them is they just don't plan well enough.
Yeah, I think that's one of them, is that they they don't plan with the right things in mind. They think, well, sometimes this is some people, they might think, well, what do I know about that topic? So this is what I know. So I'll just do chapters 1, 2, 3 about all the things I know. But that may not be what a reader really wants. The reader's looking for a solution to the problem they've got. So that's
Hmm.
how switch your mind from that. It's not about your book. Is not about you. It's for the reader. What's
Hmm.
you asking them to invest their time or their money in your book? So give them an experience. It's like going to a movie. If a movie grabs us, we love it. If the
Yes.
movie's like, yeah, guys, you're treating me like an idiot here. I know this.
I'm
It's
never going
like,
to get these 2 hours back.
yes, well, you don't want one of those books. Yeah, and also I guess that's another point, that give with your readers, decide if am I writing this book for beginners, because that's a different kind of book. than if you're writing your book for someone who's got an advanced knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So just really identify your readership even in that way. Like, so if you're writing a book for people with an advanced knowledge of something, though, that's going to determine a whole lot of different content, different language, giving people credit for an understanding they've already got.
Mm-hmm.
The big one is everybody needs it. Just if you hear yourself saying, yeah, I'll bet everybody would read this. No, they won't. It's like, no, they won't. And
No,
it's not a problem. It's not a criticism. It's just that's
Yep.
the world, it's reality. A lot of people get discouraged, like self-doubt is a big one, because it's a big deal. Writing a book's a big deal. Apart from the amount of work it takes to put it all together, it's going public. It's like putting your artwork on display for the first time, or showing a film that you've made for the first time. It's a very public declaration, and once the book's out there, you really can't get it back. It's like it's out there. So self-doubt is going to rear its ugly head from time to time. So
Yep.
it's dealing with that, just reminding yourself that you do know a certain amount. And I guess I've used this little phrase in my book coaching courses for authors or about to be authors. So this book is, what is it? I've got to remember it now. Like basically say, this book is my experience about this topic, or this book is, Bev Ryan's version, or Bev Ryan's account of how to publish a book. So that, I've written a book called Smart Women Publish, which is really sort of a how-to guide for books. And that's kind of my version of it. There's plenty of other books out there like that. Now, I could, we could all do our heads in by thinking, oh my God, they've done such a better, their book's better or whatever. But they're different people. So, just.
No, that's right. No one does you like you. So
That's right.
yeah.
And I know, we were talking earlier about, the right clients come to you if you are true to who you are and present yourself to the world, whether it's on podcasts like this or in your book or whatever. If you just kind of open up and be who you really are, then the right people will come along. So your book, you don't use your book to set up this false persona that's not you, because then so that's another one. And I think the other big mistake people make is, and again, not everybody, but some people will say, oh, we'll try and cut corners with the production costs. They won't want a quality professional book as an outcome, but the only way you can get that is if you have professionals involved in the production of it. So, pay a proper editor, and even, and also proofreading on top of that as well. Proofreading is really critical. So editing and proofreading, and pay a good designer.
Invest in what you're investing in, I guess, isn't it?
Invest in an outcome, yes.
Absolutely. This has been a really fascinating chat. I just think book publishing, I know we are in a group, She's the Boss, that's run by Jules Brooke, and there's the gorgeous Naomi who is in there, who actually has a book all about kindness. And I was wanting to buy that as a gift, and we were just kind of talking about how it's available on Amazon and Dimmicks and that sort of thing, but she hasn't got it on her website. So the difference between self-publishing and publishing with a publisher, can you just sort of enlighten us a little bit? Because I've kind of always been of the opinion that self-publishing was perhaps something you did when your book was rejected from an editor. But years of wisdom, or, the last 3 years, I've learned that that's really not true. Self-publishing is actually a really good option. Yeah,
definitely. Self-publishing gives you total control. So, we talk about indie music and indie films or whatever. A few stories here. I got into publishing with my own magazine. So this is 1997. I had a bit of a career crisis, and I used to be a teacher and I didn't want to teach anymore. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I just did a few career profiling tests and tools and reading, and came up with the idea of publishing a magazine. And when I kind of analysed all the steps that go into publishing a magazine and now publishing books, I thought actually each of those was really appealing to me. Now, I could have gone to a publishing company and asked permission to do that and said, hey, look at me, would you let me do it? under your, with your under your banner, which is like people's appealing to a publishing company with their books, saying,
Yes.
"I've got this lovely product. Will you look after it and take care of me and pay for it and whatever?" You're at the mercy of them, So I decided, hang on, I can publish this magazine myself. So in 1997, I figured out how to self-publishing magazine, and that was not very common back then. And I got a contract with a distribution company, which was critical. They kind of liked my idea. They said, we'll distribute it. So then I was fine. It was my magazine. Interesting, called Work from Home, which is much more topical today than
Yes.
1997.
Absolutely.
I'm ahead of the time, guys. Anyway, so with books, I think self-publishing began for probably a similar reason. Technology improved. People realised, I don't have to wait for a publishing company to give me permission to do this. I might actually do this myself. And that's how independent publishing of music, film, whatever, that has happened due to technology. So I guess the benefits of, some see the benefit of going through a publishing company, a traditional publishing company, is that they pay for the production of the book. But because they're paying the bills, they get the final say in everything, and which is fair enough. Is they've got to make a profit, so they may not like your idea of a title, so they'll change it. They may not like your idea of a book cover, so they'll change it. They take a long time to produce a book. You might have to wait 6 months or more for a book to actually be produced, even for when they take your manuscript. So they have a lot of control. So then they will control how the book's marketed because it's their product, basically. You get a little percentage, you get a royalty from it. Whereas, self-publishing, it's all your baby. So once you pay, I think that's why it's important to invest in the quality editing and production, because then your book is competitive and equal to traditionally published books. If you don't invest in that, you'll always look like kind of the cheaper version of a traditionally published book. I always tell my clients, the benchmark is going to a really good bookstore or the airport bookstore if we're traveling, and have a look at the business books on the shelf there. That's your benchmark,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And we'll be all looking at book covers with different lights after listening to this, I'm sure, and working out what we do and what we don't like. Bev, I've really enjoyed chatting to you about publishing and books. But before we leave, have you got any parting pearls of wisdom, something we haven't quite touched on, or anything you wanted to leave us with?
No, I think the main thing is with people is if it's something you really want to do, you just kind of got to make time for it. I know I've just published a book for a client, and she's been wanting to publish this book for 2 or 3 years, and she really only did it because she made time for it. So, I think that's like, it's got to become a priority. Now, it's great timing, 2021 coming up. Make that your book year. If it's really something you're burning to do, you have to make it a priority, and don't doubt yourself. There might be times where you kind of feel a bit, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but just know you can do it. Like, if you're running a business, you can do it. It's another thing you can do. You know how to do things. So even if you just sometimes have to ask somebody, say, hey, I'm not sure what to do next, people will tell you, people will help you. So, make it a priority and figure out how to do it as you go.
Yeah. And look, I think that is no different to anything else you want to achieve in life or your businesses. It's just got to get to the top of the priority list, and then you can certainly do it. But Bev, if someone's thinking, Bev, I'm ready, I need to do this, 2021 is my year, what's the best way that they can get in contact with you and learn a little bit more about what you offer?
Yeah, my website is smartwomenpublish.com, and I'm also easy to find on LinkedIn, just Bev Ryan. I'm in Brisbane, so if you just do a narrower search, Bev Ryan Brisbane, but smartwomenpublish.com or LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever. So anywhere there, you'll find me.
Beautiful. I'll put those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been such an interesting conversation, and I'm sure my audience will be, perhaps someone might find a spark that they didn't quite know was there.
Yeah, and just reach out to me. I'm happy to do quick chats and conversations. It'd be delightful.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks
Okay.
again, Bev.
You're welcome. Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed that chat with Bev. I certainly did. All Bev's contact details are, of course, in the show notes, which you can find at all the W's, social media and marketing.com.au/106. And just a reminder, of course, about my email marketing mastermind program that's coming up. Places will be limited. So if you are keen, go to bit.ly/email mastermind and have a read of all of that there and put in an expression of interest. But that is all for episode 106. I will, of course, be back next Thursday with 107. But I look forward to chatting before then. Join me in my group, like-minded business owners. I'd really love to know from all of my listeners, are you keen on writing a book? Perhaps we can be accountability buddies together and get this done in 2021. Look, I'll be certainly looking out for any of Bev's programs that she'll be running early in the year and see if this is something that I can tick off my 2021 list. But have a fabulous week, listener. I'm so happy you joined me for this episode. Of course, if you are enjoying the podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button and share this episode maybe with another superstar business owner who also might be interested in writing a book. Maybe they've never thought about it and maybe you will pique their interest. Of course, I would love you to leave a rating and a review to show me how much you love this podcast and all this free content, as well as my fabulous guests. But I'll see you next week. But whatever you do, my small business peep, remember, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
Tell like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.